It's everywhere. I mean, you literally walk outside and STEM is there. So when people say they can't offer, programs, I'm like, you literally can go outside and have a field day with STEM, right? It's there. We're breathing it.
This is the Discovery Files podcast from the U.S. National Science Foundation. I'm Nate Potker. One major initiative at the NSF is broadening participation in STEM. And while that goal is included in the NSF's merit review criteria of all of our awards, some programs and individuals go beyond these standards. One such individual is our guest today, Natalie S. A science educator at Georgia State University, whose work recently earned her an Alan T. Waterman Award, the nation's highest honor for early career scientists and engineers. Since its inception in 2017, Dr. King's I Am STEM program has served over 2,000 K-12 children and their families across 22 U.S. states, Canada, and the Caribbean, providing STEM enrichment, mentoring, tutoring, and social-emotional development for participants' overall well-being. Dr. King, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Pleasure.
The first thing I wanted to start with is your journey to your current role. You kind of had a pivot where you got into science education. Can you talk us through that process a little bit?
Absolutely. After I completed my undergraduate degree, I wanted to, one, take a break, and two, figure out how can I give back to a community that I felt gave a lot to me. And so I wanted to teach. I taught chemistry and biology, high school chemistry and biology, with the full intention of transitioning into medical school when I was done. And while I was teaching, there were children who had, a lot of jargon, IEPs, 504 plans, and all these, and I just wasn't familiar with them because I was not an education, I didn't major in education for my undergraduate degree. And so I decided to do an MED in special education. And during that journey is when I met she became my dissertation advisor, but she was my professor at the time. And I submitted my portfolio and she asked me, Natalie, what are you doing next? And I told her that I was studying for my MCAT, I was preparing for medical school, and the question that changed my life was, have you considered a career in science education? And of course, at that moment, I was like, a what? A PhD in science education? What does that mean? Can you share with me the process? And she did. And it has been like an open door ever since, and a beautiful transition, a beautiful pivot. But what's unique about it is that me preparing to go to medical school gave me a lot of the sciences that I needed as well as the math in order to do my job and to do it well. And so I have a strong science content background, but I also now have the pedagogy and can put the two together to really be effective in this position. And so I think it was critical for me to have that pathway, and the timing for that pivot is really made a beautiful career.
Right. And you have been extremely impactful. And one of the majority of this conversation, I want to talk to you about I Am STEM. What is I Am STEM?
I Am STEM is it's an organization that I started and started officially in 2017. And it really is to transform the base of STEM one community at a time. And so we partner with community-based organizations and help them to build capacity to offer high-quality STEM programming. We cannot leave the onus of STEM education on schools alone. They can't do it. We have to figure out how can we come together as different entities in order to offer comprehensive programs for children. And how do we use the time when they're outside of school settings in order to really support STEM learning. And so I really focus on summer. During the year with other projects and just, as a faculty role, it becomes difficult. So I hone in on summer months because that's typically a time when many of our children are idle or, they're home and they're not really doing much. And so how can we get them engaged? If they're going to go to the Boys and Girls Club, how can we support the Boys and Girls Club in order to offer high quality curriculum? If they're going to another, vacation Bible school per se, like what can we do to really support their curriculum? And that's what it is. It's like I'm not really starting different programs. I really support those who are offering programs to offer a high quality program. We do professional development with their staff, whoever they choose to hire, whoever they have access to, we work with them. Every Every organization is not going to have the budget to hire certified teachers. And so what does it mean for
Right.
us to work with, youth professionals who have the heart and just need, the know-how, they just need the support and resources. So that's what I Am STEM is.
Now it's summertime as we're having this conversation, and you mentioned being in the thick of it with the summer camps. And that was the next line of questioning I've had. What does an I Am STEM summer camp look like?
It looks different in every site. And so this year we have partners in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Texas. We also offer virtual programs. And so you have children who are joining from home. You have children who are participating in like a freedom school, and they're joining from there doing STEM programming. You have some children who are joining from a local church, and you have children who are joining from a nonprofit organizations like a Boys and Girls Club or Girls Inc. So we partner with them to offer programming. You have children who are on university campuses joining and doing STEM programming. You have children who are at a local school or at their local community-based organization. And so it looks different. There are different models. And that's what we wanted. We don't want to create something and try to make it fit. We want you to share where your programming is and how we can best support you to do programming, a little bit more effectively, to whatever that looks like for you. So we have hired virtual teachers, and they teach a lesson such as, STEM investigations. We have introduction to coding. We have robotics challenges, artificial intelligence. This year, we're focusing on Wakanda Forever, Better Together. And so we made vibranium slime, for example. They're doing some investigations in Shuri's lab. They're doing DNA beaded models of, so they can understand how the structure and function even of DNA. And so we're just incorporating the STEM in there, but they're learning without noticing that they're really learning because they're having a good time. And that's what school should be like. You should be able to do science and not just read about science. You should be able to engage and be able to, tap into students' curiosity and, figure out what can they do? How can they learn these topics, but learn it in a way that is meaningful to them? So that's a little bit about what this summer looks like. It's busy, but it's fun.
And I really like that, connecting with them in a way that will engage what they know, like talking about Wakanda, having that kind of pop culture connection really kind of makes it more engaging, I'm sure. So is there trouble with keeping kids' attention on a broader scale with this?
So in terms of keeping kids' attention, no. I think why the program is successful is because we actually have kids who are on our advisory board as well. And they share, if we are coming up with ideas for curriculum, they're like, no, you should consider doing this instead. So they keep us honest.
I'll point you in a specific direction.
And every year we always talk to parents, we talk to teachers, we talk to students. What went well? What could we do better? And I think if we do a little bit more of that, like just receiving feedback from who our end users are and using that to improve programming, that's how you make sure that it's really meeting the needs. And you're not just offering things because you feel like it's what they need. And that's why we have such a different model. This looks different from when I really started doing STEM programming, 13 years ago at a local church. The questions that I'm asking is different. The work that I'm doing, my heart is the same for the work, but my role looks a little bit different. And so just adjusting and evolving to meet the needs, to best meet the needs of our organizations, but also, especially our children.
Right. You mentioned sort of getting feedback from parents and some of the teachers and community members. What kind of reaction do you get from the broader community?
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for offering this. This is the best summer that we've had. This is affordable and it's accessible. my child is now going into gifted programs. My child is now getting pursuing, a degree in whatever in college. Like this is what parents are coming back and saying to us. And because of that, we will continue doing the work. That's the results that we want. Now, we haven't actually done a lot of the research behind it, but we know that it's working because the parents come back and they share with us. And so I think I want to be able to lean into some of those stories and to capture that and to figure out, like, what does evaluation look like in out of school time? Because we don't do formal tests such as, formal written tests. I don't know. It's hard to say what the real impact is, but we know that we're having an impact, and we're seeing it. We're seeing where children who never thought about college are now thinking about college. We're seeing where students are thinking about different careers that they didn't know even existed 1 or 2 years ago, right? And so that's how we're starting to measure like the impact of this work. Another way that we're seeing is that a lot of the parents are sharing with other parents and getting other parents engaged and involved in registering their kids, and where parents are coming and serving as teachers. We have one of our virtual teachers who her child joined for the past, I want to say 3 summers, and now we've hired her to teach. And she's now pursuing a degree, to become a teacher in a formal school. And so that's what we want to see. It's like the impact on youth and the family. And it is a family and it's a community ordeal. I can't do this by myself. I have a team and we work together as a team. And then the family is just an extension of our team, and the children are an extension of the team. We all work together to make sure that we're meeting the goals. And the goal is to provide the highest quality programming for our children, specially designed for our children, where they're not an afterthought. We don't write a curriculum and then figure out, who are the children that we're serving? How can we adapt our curriculum to meet their needs? No, we are creating the curriculum and it's specially designed for you. And that's what makes us different from school, too, is that, a lot of times we have these textbooks and we have curricular resources, and it's like, okay, you have to use this. And so one size fits all approach. That doesn't work. And one size does not fit all. I don't care how much spandex you want to put in it. It does not fit all, right? And so we just have to figure out how can we, focus on certain groups. What are the needs of these groups? What are the needs of the communities? And then we can figure out how to broaden it from there.
Right. I can't think of a more beautiful reaction than having the parents coming and saying thank you. It's like seeing that impact. Like it doesn't matter what the test score is when you're seeing it actually happen. It's really fantastic there.
Absolutely.
So one of the things you've talked about is being a researcher without a lab per se, like not being in with beakers or something like that, I guess. And I like that idea of really meeting people where they are. One of the areas you've had success is interacting with faith-based institutions. And I think historically, maybe there's been some science and religion not necessarily marrying together well. What have been the challenges with using that space for you?
I think one of the main challenges was really helping the faith-based community to see their role in this work. I feel like there's been so much divide between church and state and church and science and church and schools, like that. It's really hard now that we're trying to reach across these different spectrums. Like, what is our role, and how can we best support? I think that they're willing. It's just understanding the how. And so I wrote a book back in 2019, Let the Church Say Amen to STEM, and it's giving just like a guidebook on some of the things that they could be doing. What is it that how are they leveraging their facilities? How are they tapping into the resources that exist right there within their, congregation? You have STEM people there. You have educators within your facilities. A lot of times the facilities are not being used, during the week. So how do you now open your facilities, but also to best serve the community, but build capacity and leverage and tap into those resources that exist within your reach, and be it within your congregants who are members of the church or within the local community. I feel like the churches, research suggests that they're some of the most durable institutions within communities, especially Black and Brown communities. And so if that's the case, then we have to figure out, like, how do we really strengthen that role and increase your visibility? We're also seeing where a lot of people, especially younger people, millennials, and like, they're not really going to church as often since COVID. They're not necessarily becoming members. And so how do you figure out how to reframe even your role within the community so that you stay relevant? And so there are a lot of difficult conversations that we have to have, but they're necessary. They're absolutely necessary to get to the next level. So churches thinking beyond just the spiritual aspect of the community. What can we do to really strengthen the intellectual capacity? These are going to be your next tithe givers if you stay open. Like, how do you make sure that they're now entering to the workforce? They're getting the education that they need. They're getting the training that they need in order to take care of themselves and to better support the communities. And so just thinking outside of the box. And so I did a training last month in Oklahoma. We brought together pastors from different churches, and we had some of these conversations, and it was such a beautiful space. Because they're sharing some of their, concerns. They're sharing how even after, 2020, how their role has looked different, and they want to be able to serve. And so the more that we can begin to tear down and, disrupt these like barriers and figure out how to create more bridges, that's what's going to lead to more impactful, programming for children in the community.
Really getting back to that idea of making STEM accessible to everyone.
It's everywhere. I mean, you literally walk outside and STEM is there. So when people say they can't offer, programs, I'm like, you literally can go outside and have a field day with STEM, right? It's there. We're breathing it. And so I just want us to think differently about it. You may not have the money to do, the Lego robotics and those things, but you don't need that in order to offer a high quality program. Year one, I had no budget to do a program. And so we just had to tap into what I had access to. And so that's where creativity becomes important, because I feel like when you have so much resources, you have a lot of schools who have resources, and these materials sit in a closet, nobody touches them, right? And then you have places where they're like, oh, I can't do it because I don't have any resources. It's not the case. Start with what you have, and then make sure that you're training people on what it is that you're getting, so that you don't have these resources and not know what to do with them. So yeah, I could talk about that all day long.
Takes a little bit of creative thinking in there to make it all work out. I think this probably sets us up to successfully kind of transition into some of the NSF funding and NSF support you've had. So one of the past grants was about developing STEM educators. I'm wondering if you might share a little bit of that with us.
Oh, yes. Wow. So this SPEDL is what we call it, developing STEM professionals as educators and teacher leaders. And so we've recruited those they've had science degrees, STEM degrees, math degrees, and they had an interest in teaching. And for this is the NSF Noise Project, and they had to commit to teaching in a high needs school. We have such talented and amazing teachers who we were able to recruit. They went through our teacher preparation program at Georgia State University. They're now teaching in, Metro Atlanta area and doing a phenomenal job. We have several who are now department chairs or coaches. We have some who have won Teacher of the Year already. We have one who started her own nonprofit organization, Culturally Relevant Science, where her and her co-founder now create STEM lessons and now serve as a hub and a resource for other teachers to be able to use to offer high quality programming in their classrooms and curriculum in their classrooms. So they're doing amazing work. And one thing that we learned is that we can't just focus on teacher preparation and not the human behind it. Who are they as people, as individuals? We learned that when everything was happening with COVID, and they were home and they were doing their teacher preparation programs online, and they had to transition back to in person, it was a lot. And what we had to do was listen. And they told us, they said, this is too much. And we were at a point where we almost had high attrition. And when we sat and we listened to them and to their needs, they really wanted to have a space where they can share, where they can talk, where they can, where they can focus on their well-being and self-care. And when we made that pivot to focus on well-being and self-care, it made a world of difference for our program. We still have all of them. We still have all of them. They're still teaching and being teacher leaders now. And that is, with the mass exodus that we've had over the past couple of years and the teacher shortages, that speaks volumes. And so we are proud. We are proud of the program, but also just proud of who they are and who they've developed themselves to be, and having us to think differently about what it means to support teachers and what does it mean for us to support them in becoming teacher leaders.
Right. That's really something, getting that many people to stay involved. That really speaks to the quality of the program you've put together with those people there. The next one I think was a big deal. There's only a couple people every year that get this. You are the recipient of one of the Alan T. Waterman Awards. What does that mean to you and your work to be recognized in that way?
Yeah, so the Alan T. Waterman Award, I didn't even know that existed. This time last year, I didn't even know the name, right?
Right.
And so Dr. Thomasina Adams, she reached out to me and she said, she just forwarded, asking me about, do I qualify? And at that moment, I was like, I don't know. Never heard of this award, but I see that there's a webinar coming up. And so I listened to the webinar and I was like, good news, I do qualify, but I don't think I'll get it. I was like, I looked through and there's no educator who's ever won this. Actually, I don't see any educator who's gotten this award. And she's like, well, you'll be the first. And she put together a phenomenal nomination, letter of nomination. But then I had other, faculty and scholars who are esteemed in our field, who did the same. We had Dr. Sedlich, Dr. Moore-Mensah, Dr. Green, and Dr. Pringle, who supported the nomination and wrote their own letters. And then when I got that call that I was selected, it was like I had absolutely no words in that moment. And still today, I can pinch myself. I can like, is this real? Yeah, Natalie, it's real. I think just for me, I don't do this work for the accolades. I truly just get the satisfaction of just seeing that I'm going to leave the world a better place than I found it. And that is enough. But for it to get recognized on this level, what it does is it basically gives permission for other people to do the same. Like, you can actually engage in work that's meaningful to you, and you can get recognized and you can get supported. And I think just inspiring people in that capacity, it has been amazing. I want to share is that, hot off the press, one of the first initiatives with the award is that I'm partnering with Gwinnett County Public Schools, and we are going for a retention initiative, and they're going to help support 25 of their teachers to go through our MED online program in STEM education for them to be able to strengthen their STEM ed capacity and to support STEM education in one of the largest districts in Georgia. And so that, man, we are so excited about it. Georgia State's excited. I'm excited.
That's some buy-in right there. Yeah.
Yes, that we can not only support the preparation of new teachers, but also where we're putting things in place for, retaining current teachers who want to be able to teach maybe in high need schools, or they themselves are Black and brown teachers who are working in the field. And so we're really excited about this new initiative. We have a lot of interest, and we're going to start our new cohort in fall.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you what was next, but I think you just set up the tea for what was happening next.
Yeah, that's one. Oh, that's one of the next. And then we've expanded our partnership this summer. And so we've increased our partners for doing the I Am STEM program. We have 3 different groups on campus this summer: Girls Inc. of Greater Atlanta, Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta, and also Ivy Preparatory Academy. And so we have brought middle and high school students to the summer to campus for 4 weeks during the summer to engage in STEM camp. And we're excited that we have the support to be able to do that. I've also been able to hire 2 postdoctoral research associates to be able to build capacity to do the work. And so anyway, we are on and going.
Absolutely. If someone out there is watching or listening to this and is interested in finding out more about I Am STEM, or wants parents or students or faculty at a school somewhere and wants to bring it to their area, where should they go to do that?
They can go to our website on iamstemcamps.com. They could also reach out to me via email as well. And we're always looking to expand. I don't put it out there, that we do it. Usually it's people who are saying, okay, we're ready, we're interested, and they contact us, and that's how we do it. Because I don't want to grow too quickly where we lose, the essence of what the program really means, community-based program. And so I think we're growing pretty organically. And if it's something that is of interest and for your organization, we'll start planning this year in order to execute next year. And so we're always looking for new partners and accepting new partners.
Special thanks to Natalie S. King. For the Discovery Files, I'm Nate Podker. Discover how the U.S. National Science Foundation is advancing research at nsf.gov.